George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. June is Black Music Month, and I got Black music pioneers. I'm so excited to bring to you none other than Dr. Roosevelt, Rick Wright, Jus Mic, on-air personality at 96.5, The Beat, and of course, the legendary Butch Charles in here. And the conversation really is, so Syracuse as a music scene, Black Music Month in general, where we at as a culture in the community. I just want to have a conversation. And if y'all recognize any of this, this was the lineup on Power, whatever station it was. I can't remember. It was this 106.9. Is that the one?
106 at 620. I mean,
And
Power
620.
106.9.
And 620. And 620.
Then they did us dirty. You went 620, and then, yeah.
There you go. There you go. Tell the truth, shame the devil. That's all right with me. But anyway, good to see you all, fellas. And so, Mike, you're currently on the air. Rick is on the air. Butch has got on air. Tell me what you got, Butch. Unmute yourself, my brother.
I'm sorry. We've got a stream 360. We're streaming 360 Ebony degrees.
How about that? So everybody's still in the game. So
okay.
Should I defer to the youth or to the elders? So let me just, I don't know where to go here, but so the concept that I have is, let's talk about what's happening in Syracuse right now. Jus Mic, let me start with you. You're on the Daily Show. What's going on in Syracuse right now? Musically, where do you see us?
Well, that's a tough question, to be honest with you, as far as Syracuse now, because it's one of those things where it's almost an issue that's been going on since, that Butch used to have to deal with, where there's a lot of people that have music, that want stuff played, quality's not that good, or people just aren't really super focused. On top of that, it's difficult. It's not, we're not necessarily a major market, so it's difficult to just take artists and put artists down. But it's the same struggle. It's what Butch was dealing with back in 2001, 2002 with Power 106.9 jams on air. Same thing. People want stuff played, but going about doing it's kind of difficult. And then, I'm not to be negative, but the energy that goes behind it doesn't match what people say and what they want to do. You know what I mean? So as far as just I don't like saying local, but like regional music, it's kind of difficult because especially with formats and things like that. But yeah, so it's the same struggle that's been going on, especially for artists around here and for people in radio that want to help. But
so separating getting the music of local artists on the air from the fact that we have local artists who are very talented, whose music is being played elsewhere. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. We do have people, as far as, like on the hip hop scene, people in Syracuse that are doing things outside of Syracuse. Notably, there's a guy named Aaron Cooks, born and raised in Syracuse. He actually branched out and he signed with rapper Busta Rhymes now on his label. And, so he's kind of going through the circuit and doing his thing. But and then you have folks, of course, like Seth Marcel, who's been doing music for years, who's pretty much satisfying the Syracuse music thing. But yeah, there's a lot of folks that are doing stuff. I think, but right now, probably the biggest would be Aaron Cooks. There's folks that are doing, it's hip hop, doing different things, like this guy Zach G. So there are people around here that are doing stuff.
Yeah, Butch, what do you think about Syracuse and its music scene?
Well, Mike always looks at it from the artist point of view, and I thought you might have had Seth on too, but from a entertainment and radio standpoint, you still have venues like the amphitheater. I was by there today, and their whole lineup for the whole summer, maybe there's one act, two acts that stray away from country and and do something else, but that's predominant for that venue. And the other local venues, there's strange things and good, some of them good, that go on at the Westcott Theater in terms of some diversity of, the presentation of entertainment. But, that's it. And then, the fair looks like it's got a little bit of a struggle. Same old stuff, that's there. And they have the local stuff with the jams, a day and all of that, but no real major artists on the urban side or dance side or something like that. So that's what I'm paying attention to, and then you have Frank and the Jazz Fest on the way, and then isolated pockets of music that you have to actually have to look for, when you want to do it. And the big difference between that time Mike's talking about back in the, the early days of Power and all of that is so different now with so many more choices and different ways people can find stuff out. I still think local is what's gonna rule the day, but people and people listening, that that's just changed tremendously.
Dr. Rick, Butch makes a point about, is it back like when we were coming through, we need a station, we got a station, we had a couple, but now do you need that, right? Do you have to have that when you can have your own voice, podcast, microphone, build an audience, and you can bypass, quote unquote, the traditional way that things have been done? Now you're going to argue radio is still the key. I got you. But do we have to put all our eggs in that basket now in this environment? I'd like all of y'all to touch that, but I'll start with you, Doc.
Look, George, as an old guy who's turning 81 years old next month, I'm really disheartened about really what is going down. We have a lot of technological platforms, yes, to disseminate programming, music, and everything. And not just a local thing for the standpoint of Syracuse. This is nationally. One of the big problems right now, the corporate model for radio is horrible right now. I mean, we got big companies that bought all these stations years ago, trying to hang on. And we got radio stations running with computers, man, and they're talking AI. Of course, let's face it, man, the great-great-grandmother that created this whole musical structure was radio broadcasting, local radio, local air personalities. And in fact, let's technically say a radio station in the old days, a group locally trying to get their stuff played, would work with a local DJ who would play their stuff. Then it gets, if it's good, it spreads, man. But right now, I think the thing I'm really disheartened about is really the managerial structure that we've gotten ourselves into. It started with the deregulation of radio. Radio is ability still as a live, local communications tool is still its most effective way of making it happen. And if you look at all the big companies, iHeart, Cumulus, name them all, not just here in Syracuse. I mean, this model is all over the daggone country. I mean, look, we're looking at syndicated radio shows where a syndicated show is about every station in the country. I mean, local is still the basic foundation for the creation of music and the development of musical artists. It's what I'm indicating. And we really got to, this present structure is not going to get it. And what really is disheartening me as a guy who's, crazy about instructional technology and radio, is that we got all of these incredible platforms. Yes, many ways of getting the material out there, but a lot of it's not that good either. It's what I'm getting at. And of course, speaking about the Jazz Fest, we kick off with we got the OJs in town for the opening gala act at the Jazz Fest. And the Juneteenth's bringing on board who? We got Zap coming to
That
town.
coming up, yeah.
Zap's coming to town in what, 2 or 3 days from now. So I mean, a lot of the
At the time of this conversation, they already played, but okay.
yeah, but okay. Well, I know you do. Here we go. I'm talking about radio now. Your show is on there. It's going to be aired later.
Right.
And I think I'm making my point here again.
Right. Speaking of which, right. Case in point, right? Case in point.
Case in point, I'm indicating. And we got, and another thing too is with the musical model we got now, we got a whole lot of good music that's sitting on shelves right now because the companies don't want to pay the daggone royalty fees. I mean, I'm listening to radio. I'm really disheartened because we got terrestrial radio stations are on air right now. Let's look at Syracuse. How many stations on air in Syracuse right now? Dancing. Every last one of them, there's nobody in the facility. There's a computer running it. The playlist is absolutely the same 20, 25 records over and over again. We got thousands of music. And of course, this is African-American Music, Black History Month. And when we talk about Showtime in America and talking about music, its base is in the African-American ancestry of music. And also we're dealing with a situation right now where our culture, African-American music, they're trying to erase it.
Yeah. I'm down there in Florida.
Yeah, they're trying to erase it. Really, our history, our music. And of course, this model have always been around. Think about, as an old guy, go back to the 1950s when I was a kid growing up and looking at when television assumed the format of radio. Mm-hmm. And radio had to reinvent itself by using what? Music and disc jockeys. And of course, we look at the sociological area of African-American music. Okay, we come out with hits that were incredible, and the daggone white folk come out and what? Go with a daggone cover version, which is absolutely horrible. Think about the days of Little Richard. African-American artists in the 50s and the 60s, man. Music, if we got played in our urban facilities, by the way, in radio, were low-powered stations on horrible frequencies. We never had the powerhouse stations. If we had, it would have been lights out if our culture was able to go. Now, Butch, I'm so proud of you and all of you guys because you guys have pioneered in ownership. And look what has happened. They changed the goalposts on us.
Yeah, they always do. Your original question, George, was just to comment on what was it again?
So, a lot of the fight has been, we need our own station. And now you have all these different other ways to get the word out in community podcasts. So everybody got a microphone now. And so is that demand, and which is what Dr. Rick was speaking to, is that still the demand when there's so many other ways that exist today? Because you made the point about the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
In the game.
Yeah, but
how much of a difference does it make?
I still think that it makes a difference that you have something that you identify with and can go with if you want information. Especially if you're hearing about things, our job is to bring all the things together and bring it together so you can enjoy it and pick. Then if you want to go on your own and explore more in that direction, you know where to go, but somebody's got to introduce you to it. And that information is also the same for news and news of what's happening in the community or news of what's happening about music. Just by us sitting here, we've talked about, at least a week's worth of things that are going on. And you found that out in one place. If you didn't know it, now you did. If you didn't know who was coming to Juneteenth, I didn't know Zap was coming.
Zap came.
Yeah, came. So, and they were good too. It was a good show.
It was a great show.
But, who would have, those kind of things aren't publicized or not, or,
Right. How do we
you aren't talked about. So and that's where we would, we would come in, because that can't happen now with, without you on Power, or without Jus Mic being live on the air and being able to comment on things that happen in the community, and people know that, it's not going to happen with the other services that are there. So yes, there's always a place for local, and the ones that were always local here in Syracuse are still getting numbers. Their numbers may be lower, but it's higher than somebody podcasting,
Right.
or than
Exactly.
somebody, or than somebody streaming or something like that. So
Right.
yeah, so I think there's always going to be a need
So
for and
the
demand.
thing with podcasting and streaming, just to piggyback on that, is they have the ability to reach the masses, but everyone has their own thing. So the amount of people listening or viewing is like this, and then if they get lucky, it spreads from there. So
Shannon Sharp. Oh, go ahead.
you get a good guest down there and something controversial, and you're good.
Yeah.
And then it blows up from there. But it's on the media side and the news side and stuff like that. There aren't a lot of people. Just to keep it real, there aren't a lot of people that understand exactly what they're supposed to be covering. They don't understand the acts that are coming on. Like, a lot of folks don't understand the power of, no pun intended, what's going on now, what's going on in the past. For example,
Right.
Before I got back on air, DJ Maestro and myself, he was on with Power and Hot as well. We got on stage at the bigger concerts, introducing the concerts at the fair, and it was almost like we were doing the show. And people, as soon as we got up there and said our names like that, they knew who we were, and that dates back, to Hot and Power, when Butch was running things. So there's always been a spot for it. It's just, and people hold on to it too. That they don't forget about it, and they hold on to it. It's just people that are kind of in control, so to speak, don't. It's an issue that it was back then. They just don't have a complete understanding of what they have in front of them. And that goes for sales too. That goes for salespeople. They just don't understand. And in my experience, don't take time to sit down with people who do understand. So there's money on the table a lot of time too when it comes to it. And it's all about money anyway.
You talked about, so Butch, we're talking about Butch Charles, Jus Mic, Dr. Rick. It's kind of a reunion of Power 620, Power 106.9, old school, and Dr. Rick, of course, all radio legends here. And so interesting that you talked about what kind of acts are coming up. So let me tell you what this promoter experienced not too long ago. He was trying to promote an event with Sherry Shepherd, national TV talk show host as a comedian, and Joe, trying to promote a show at the Landmark. Didn't happen. Why didn't it happen?
Hey, George, look, we
Why
already
didn't it
know.
happen?
We know how to do it. Look, why
Because
didn't it happen?
because we didn't buy the tickets. I guess what I'm saying is
no.
Hold on.
People
Let me just finish this thing.
Okay.
So we didn't buy the tickets, and because when I saw that Sherry Shepherd was coming, I got excited. He says, they're not feeling Sherry up there. So Sherry's comedian, Joe, the act that was coming, right? They had to cancel the show because they didn't get the numbers that they needed. So I'm gonna just throw it out there. Is that why every show is country?
No, look, George, look, let's get back. Look, we already know how to do this, is what I'm indicating. Promotion and the base hen, we've thrown what makes this thing work in the trash can. The great-great-grandmother of music in this country, and the model will still work today if we get back to it. Now, you talk about the show that's coming to the Landmark. With a powerhouse radio station with jocks and personalities on the air, we don't wait till 2 days before the show. We start promoting, 2-3 weeks out. And of course, a group is like, okay, you say Zap's coming to town this Saturday night. Who knows about it? Their music, normally we'd be playing their music up. We would interview the artists. We would talk about the group. And it's also the rotation of the music is a soundtrack of people's lives. and we got it going. And in the meantime, the money side is what you got to have an act that is invigorating, stimulating, that will attract.
Right.
And when you got that, you're going to have a packed house at the Landmark. We've already done this. And get back, let's think about this. The last Power Family Jams that we had at Oneida Shores, we brought Tyrese to town, Evelyn Champagne King, and local bands were all over. Butch, how many folk did we draw that day?
That was 16,000 out there on the lake. Police
And another 5,000-6,000 were trying to get in.
Yeah. Long line of traffic.
And what did that? What made that happen?
That was just radio. That was the power of radio. That was
That's great.
Radio.
That's 19 whatever. Now we're in 2024.
That model worked today in 2024.
That model still works, George. But that model still works. And just to take your example, let's not. And I don't mean this negatively, but it may sound that way. There are other ways to promote other than just radio, and not everybody uses those. Whoever had that Sherry Shepherd show, she's known for TV, so your promotion should be all visual, or a combination of visual and this, in order to get it done. So
did you even know that she was coming?
No, but I know, I do think I heard that. I may have saw it.
I didn't know
in the paper, but
you didn't know, right? She was supposed to come.
Hey, I didn't know it either.
That's promotion.
She even did a PSA. It's hey Syracuse, right? But
that's not enough. That's not enough.
I think the guy who was promoting it, I think there was some problems because I think too many people rely solely on social media, and that to me is a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so look, the great-great-grandmother of this whole business is radio broadcasting. The radio model is the great-great-grandmother. What's so fascinating now we've forgotten about is that if we set a base foundational communications network, let's say we got a good powerhouse radio station in this town. We can now stream into 5, 6, 7 different platforms, but the radio station will be the base headquarters, with the creative producing effort. And of course, we need some live personalities on the air there too, that have developed themselves in the market where people love them and respect them. And okay, GK said, okay, hi, George Kilpatrick here. You're a hot item. Meet me at the Landmark Theater. It's coming 2 weeks and Sherry's going to be in town. Also, by the way, we should be interviewing her, live on the air. Weeks coming up to the show. This is stuff we did. We know this is how this thing works.
Yeah,
we throw in the trash can the very thing that makes this whole thing work is what I'm indicating.
Mike.
So at the same time, if you don't mind me jumping in, and this is something that's been dealt with as long as I've been around. Folks don't like buying tickets. It comes down to the point where unfortunately, not to generalize, but a lot of people of color in Syracuse, or I don't know, maybe it's other places too, they're walk-up crowds. So if you're counting on ticket sales to close the deal, a lot of times you're not going to get it. They're walk-up crowds. That's also an issue with local music. That's an issue. People support who they personally know or like. And if they don't know them, then they don't support them. And then as far as artists go, every artist is the best artist. So the only people that follows them are their following. But when it comes to shows and things like that, that's kind of what it is.
How have those Sharky shows been doing, Mike?
Well, it depends because the acts that have been coming in, none of them are blockbuster acts. Like for example, Ashanti, when she came in, it was pretty packed. It was pretty good. As far as the quote unquote urban acts go, Ashanti had a good amount of people there. Recently, they had Rob Bass, and there were a couple hundred people there. I mean, Sharky's doesn't really hold a ton of folks, but there were people that came. But again, it was an older crowd, and it was more of a nostalgia thing. Had that been an artist who's not like a superstar right now, it may have been difficult because people they only support who they know, or who they think is the best.
But I'll give Sharky's a soul, whatever that clap is, because at least they're trying and they're doing it consistently. And that's what has to happen in order for you to build an audience and be able to get people. So if they're not crying that Rob Bases only had 300 people and they're still going to book groups of that nature, they're going to maintain an audience. And that becomes something for the radio station to promote and get advertising from. And then, the cycle,
Right.
repeats itself. So it's a shame to hear that things haven't really moved that much in terms of, how all of that goes.
So, is there anything positive happening in Black music in Syracuse right now that we want to uplift? Is there anything happening? And I say Black music because that's what we're talking about. Some people may want to call it urban. I'm saying Black, or urban, however you want to call it. Is there anything that we want to uplift in the space, since we have the opportunity and all of you are doing something right now in the moment?
Well, I think really in real cases, we got to get back to work. Here in Syracuse, we've always had real difficulty in the area of African-American urban R&B, shows and music. I mean, when I first came here in 1970, I left for South where we had full-time urban radio stations is what I grew up in, the Norfolk, Virginia, Raleigh, Durham, Richmond, Virginia, those kind of towns, which I grew up in. And of course, the one thing I've learned is that those stations were able to create a soundtrack of people's lives. I mean, we talking 24 hours a day, or even the daytimers, sun up to sundown, were on the air every day, presenting music and artists, which would become the soundtrack of a person's life. And then, of course, hey, celebrity hasn't gone anywhere, has it? I mean, don't we still love celebrities? I look at some of the big artists. I'm looking at what's our young lady who's Taylor Swift and her guy, the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's a single artist. I mean, you got an act, and of course the exposure, which needs to happen in order to get that act known so it can attract. And of course, the key thing I'm just indicating here in Syracuse, where's our nightclub? We've had nightclubs here that drew big crowds. We had radio on the air and all, and we're just taking a regression back, is what I'm indicating. And the town is ready to happen.
So you telling me ain't nothing good happening?
Oh yeah, no, let me. I'm an old guy now.
So no, because I understand what the state of it is, but I'm asking, is there something that we should be uplifting that is happening Black in the urban music scene, whether it's on the air, off the air, in community? I mean, is there anything that we should be uplifting in this moment? You talked about Aaron Cooks as someone who is from the community and doing the thing. What else could we uplift while we have the moment, right? Because
you could uplift.
I tell you, one of the key. One of the key things.
Go ahead, Dr. Wright. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
No, one of the key things about right now, this radio show is being aired all over the world right now. We can be picked up all over the world right now. And we're on Power 620 right now. New Inspiration for the Nation with George Kilpatrick. George, this show can be heard right now anywhere in the world through our technological internet system, if we might say, all the other platforms. The key thing is, okay, George, we got a station here rolling. We're on the air on a nice Sunday here, right? Then when we get off the air, okay, it's Sunday. We got some
press
shows.
The buttons.
You know where I'm coming from. All right, I'm just saying the great grandmother that makes this thing happen. And it's a very simple model. They just have it. We got corporations that have taken over. They trying to make a stack of money. They want to spend the money. And here in Syracuse, this town is starving right now. It's starving for entertainment. And of course, our music is the deal that creates a soundtrack of people's lives, man. That as the people in a depressed mood, oh man, a powerhouse radio station ends that among its populace. So the point I'm saying, we are on air on radio right now. We got a signal going out all over the world from Syracuse, New York. Of course, we're on the AM dial, amplitude by 620 on the dial, but we're being, these platforms are all out there. Now, the thing about it, are we creating an act that attracts? And what I'm looking at, And even the station we on there, I'll go on a little later and I said, my God, I heard those. Where's all the incredible music? Or better yet, the creativity of a show that would allow to bring in local acts to help them get amplified and all is what should be taking place, George. It's what I'm indicating.
Got
I mean,
you,
right
bro.
now, we right now we're piecemealing right now. And all the knowledge in this on the air right now. We got some incredible Butch is a doggone genius. Jus Mic, genius. George Kilpatrick is a genius. Dr. Rick, I just, I finished college, thank the Lord, with all my degrees and everything, and still trying to learn this business. But the one thing that I've learned, my godmother, and I'll mention her name, this is radio, she's going to heaven, Ms. Leola Dyson, who for years was on air middays at WRAP, Norfolk, Virginia. And she once told me, said, Godson, when you really want to get serious about radio broadcasting and all, what you want to do is create in your community a station that is integrated into the sociological aspects of that community and the demographics that you're trying to reach. You want to have a solid station of news, information, and entertainment all together. And what you want to do, you want to create an on-air situation that is so powerful in your community that people basically take the stations or these platforms into their houses as a member of the family. And she said, this is when you know you have won. When your members of your audience, they get in trouble, they will call the radio station before they call the police.
Yeah, well,
and we don't have that. And that model still works today.
So what can we uplift? Go ahead, brother Butch Charles.
I was going to say you can uplift the shows and whatnot that are here and available. And in terms of, like we should be packed at this OJ show at the Jazz Fest. We should be, we should see another crowd like we saw last night for Zap. So all of that should be taken advantage of, and done. And then if there are, people that listen to Jus Mic and listen to Dr. Rick and this show, need to continue to do that and participate, especially participate, give feedback so that we can tailor something that can be for you that we know will be able to be profitable. Because there's a lot of people out there doing a lot dumber stuff and making money. We'd like to provide a service, but it costs to do that. And that's what all of these corporations today are suffering with their current model for how they make money. It's going to take some time to figure out how it's going to work where everybody can still, make a living wage, but provide the service.
So here's an example, like Brown Skin. Okay, they've been around since what 20? What is it, Butch? Like what 2010? 07, something like that. Brown Skin, the band, Big Nate and the boys.
Yes, Nate, the guys, they've established themselves big time here in Syracuse.
So
everybody knows them. Yeah,
they performed at Turning Stone.
Right.
At Turquoise Tiger in Turning Stone. I went to a show out there where they were performing, and there wasn't a lot of Syracuse there. They were the people that were at Turning Stone that went to the show. So I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out how to, and this is something that I'm trying to figure out for years, is how to get the bodies here to go to these places. I brought him up, which mentioned him, like Seth Marcel. He's done shows around here. And if it's a high quality show, then people should be open to go. It's just a matter of if there would be more opportunities and more artists and more things happening with, as you said, Black music. If the consumer would be more open to supporting, it's like completely different topic, but it's like the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
Women need to watch it in order for it to get big. Women need to be invested in that in order for it to get big. People that listen to Black music or performers or Black folks in general need to be more invested for these things that we're saying are happening to exist and thrive. And that is the issue. The core of the issue is getting people to be supportive. When there were straight urban stations, you couldn't get people to be supportive unless it benefited them to do so. Even with the beat now, it's a rhythmic station that slants, like it plays stuff that
Don't say the
other
word.
stations
Don't say the word.
play.
Go ahead. Yes.
But even in that situation, with good ratings comes from other radio stations not supporting them, saying it's a fluke, things of that nature. So it's more of a, people have to get behind it in order for, we can sit here and say all day, Jazz Fest, great. State Fair, I could say, go see the Yin Yang Twins. Oh, they're going to be fantastic. Cool, been to Sharkies. So again, shout out to Sharkies. But people still need to get out of the mindset, and I've always called it the Syracuse mindset, which is limited. Go places. Don't just go where people that are going. Go places. Experience new things. Do stuff. So it's more about the listener, the watcher, the consumer. It's in their hands. We can promote everything all day long, but if there's no call to action, they don't get up and do something, then we end up in the same situation like where you said she was going to come here, no tickets were purchased, and it always turns into a last minute thing. Now this is different. It's not music, but Marlon Wayans came to town. Should have been sold out 3 nights in a row. And advanced ticket sales, they weren't sold out. They ended up selling out because people figured, okay, cool, let's go do it. And they went. But in the beginning, it makes promoters nervous because they're not selling those tickets. So as much as we say, hey, this is a great group, this is a great rapper, this is a great singer, this is a great band, it's not going to matter unless the people say, okay, cool, I want to support this and get it going.
Yeah. And
in my opinion.
You think about how Marlon Wayans was promoted. I mean, you had to know or get the email. If you didn't know, you didn't even know he was going to be here. So
there was no promotion for it. The most promotion for it was a new guy who started over at Funny Bone, reaching out and making phone calls. Back now to, Dr. Wright's sentiment. Before, it used to be going to the radio station. Hey, we're going to be in town doing the interview. Okay, cool. Go to the show.
Well, that's how we got Monique to come to the station. And say what you want to say about Monique. She was so gracious to Kenny and I, and did the drops, did everything we needed her to do. But that was what you say, Dr. Rick, the power of radio, right?
Hey guys, that model still will work today.
It'll work today.
Since this is African American History Month, let's give Syracuse its kudos. Probably the greatest and biggest show, which was an urban R&B artist, happened here in Syracuse, New York in the 1980s. This particular young man drew 40,000 people to what was then known as the Carrier Dome. I'm talking about Prince and the Purple Rain Tour.
I was there.
This and that, if you look, and let's go and do an inventory, statistical analysis of every show that's ever happened in Syracuse. I just want to salute, as we talk about Black Music Month, that here in Syracuse, New York, back in the 1980s, and this model was kicking. Prince came to town, 40,000 people. And then, of course, they had TV uplifting.
Sheila E.
Yeah, Sheila E. kicked the show off. All right. And, both acts are still hot, still getting played today, But the point I'm making, I just want to give kudos to Syracuse. You talk about the uplifting, George. We got to get back and uplift to the model that we've already created because we haven't broken our own record. But again, the biggest show was an African-American artist here in Syracuse in the Dome, 40,000 that Saturday night. And man, leading up to it, I was going down Marshall Street that night, man. Young ladies were dressed up, man, in some of the most outlandish outfits ever. It was showtime. The thing I'm just simply saying, guys, if you got an act that attracts, that's incredible. We as human beings still have what? A sociological and emotional need for things that will entertain us, educate us, and inform us. And it is up to us as media people and the owners and all to create that kind of environment for our life. Look at our country right now, man. We in the craziest bunch of disinformation in this country right now, politically. But the one tool that is, by the way, radio is a highly efficient and probably the most inexpensive way of reaching mass audiences. And then with all the new technological tools we got, letting great-great-grandmothers set the foundation and shoot that signal out. Also, look, Isn't it great about our country if we got radio stations broadcasting with local live people? And if you are in California, you can tune into a Syracuse station just to get a sociological feel of how Syracuse
Just
is.
like that. It's all changed now. Just like
But
that.
that model still works, is what I'm saying. It still works. We've
works.
thrown the model in the trash can. Look at stations, and there's nobody in the radio station. We got a computer running the place. And we're using voice tracks and stuff for people who don't even know the town they're in. The thing I'm saying right now, you can mention Butch, Jus Mic, they can walk the streets of this town. They still remember when you were on air. Butch, I'm sure you go to the supermarket, man, and people are talking about, hey, man, we really miss your show, man. It was incredible.
All right, so Doc, how can people?
You're right.
Oh, listen, Doc.
Yeah.
How can they find you? What's the name of your show? Where can they?
Oh, you don't need to find me. I think this stage of life.
You have a show. Do you have a show that you want to promote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. But I know I'm an old radio guy. I worked a lot.
Where's your show at, brother?
Okay. People, you can get me on Community FM, WCNY HD3, and of course, I have a company that we put together called Central Current, Current. It's a nonprofit digital innovative operation it's a baby now. We're working on that baby to really fill in the gaps of things that we need that we have disappeared with. That is information and basically letting the community know what is going on.
Butch
Hey,
Charles.
GK, real quick.
Go
quick,
ahead, Doc. Mike, go ahead.
I don't want it to come off like I am or we are, whatever, like bashing Syracuse, because they're out there. I was on the stage at the fair. I was there with Ludacris. I was there. You can't tell me anything. There was 40,000 people plus at that show.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. I was on stage. I was there with Maestro. We watched the show. So people come out. It's just a matter of getting them to come out to everything. Why they don't come out, there's a bunch of reasons for that, I'm sure, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing the city. There are artists around here that are making noise, that are doing things. They should take their craft a little more seriously. But people are there.
Drop some names. Who's making noise? Who we need to know about?
Well, see, now here's the funny thing about it. So this kind of goes back to one of the first things that Doc was saying. Some of the artists are not people of color that are kind of making a buzz. Like there's that kid I was talking about, this kid named Zach G. Like he's doing what he's doing. A guy who's doing a lot of photography for a lot of groups that are coming into town. His name's Devontae. He's doing what he's doing. He should be involved with, in my opinion, involved with the, news stations or newspapers, so if that's a thing, like Syracuse.com or something like that, where they have pictures and stuff. He should be involved in that. You do have Seth. Maestro actually has, I probably just want to be referred to as his daughter, but his daughter sings. She's working on projects. He has other people that he's working with, and they're trying to do things. And Maestro's using his clothing line to help them move forward with the music career. So there's stuff to support. It's just a matter of, people supporting it. I think that the biggest thing will be to work, and this has been going on since I've been involved in anything. It's just getting people to support things that they're not familiar with. And what we've done on radio, in the mindset of, playing the hits, is made it so all you need to listen for is something that's popular and popular at the moment. So the things that aren't popular get kind of pushed to the side. And, on that side, I'm still on there. Part of that's my fault. I need to do what I got to do to get there, to do stuff like that.
And where do we find you, brother?
96.5 The Beat, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7. Yeah. So, that's it on the radio side.
Butch Charles.
Yeah, we're hopefully going to be streaming 360 Ebony Degrees, and make it available probably on Mixcloud Live 365, something like that. It's been rolling around in my basement for 3 years. So,
I want to say this: if there's people out there that are working in music, working in radio, working in media, and watching this, you should reach out to Butch, because he is a pioneer. He gave me my start and didn't have to, and he knows his stuff. you know, and it's things like that. We need to talk to people like Butch to figure out how to move forward and do stuff today, in my opinion.
There you go. Well, listen, the conversation will certainly continue. We heard all the problems. Hopefully we heard some solutions. Doc, close us out with some words of encouragement.
Okay, I will say this, guys. If you've been reading the news and keeping up, Syracuse, New York is in a transitional period right now. We got a major industry getting ready to come to this city. And over the next 10 years, Syracuse is going to be a whole new different place. I'm talking Micron, $6 billion operation coming to town. We got one thing that's missing in our town right now? Hotel space. Places that even have a venue to have shows, and also a communications network that is a real deal. So I'm just simply saying to the next generation, next group up, don't forget the fact that we have some incredible technological systems, but the baby that you cannot never forget, and is sitting there, is radio broadcasting. Everybody's talking about podcasting. That is the baby of radio broadcasting. And a lot of the podcasting that is going is what we used to do on basic terrestrial radio stations all over the country. So I want to say we are in good shape. We have all the technological tools. What we need is really a whole new generation of thinkers, strong management people, and also a key is the ownership side still. We've always caught in this country as African Americans. They've always changed the goalposts on us. And of course, we got to realize our history is trying to be erased, but we cannot let that happen. This is a great time to be alive. The challenges are on the table. And I want to simply end the show, George. It's time for It's Showtime.
It's showtime.
That's what we don't have. We got to get a show. We got to bring back the show, baby. We got to bring back the acts that attract, and we got to start developing our own local personalities. I mean, Butch is a superstar. Jus Mic, you are. You too, George.
Who's the next generation? Dr. Rick Wright.
Well, we're going to train the next generation while I'm still here. We got big-time communication schools here, right here in Syracuse. Yeah. That's the Newhouse School, man. Kids come all over the country. We have got to learn how to use all the new technological tools we got. We already know how to do it. All we got to do is create some daggone innovative, creative programming to help create the soundtrack of people's lives, especially here in Syracuse, New York. The populace out there is waiting, George. They're ready to dance.
Well, listen, it's been a pleasure having all of you on. Dr. Roosevelt, Rick Wright Jr., galloping ghosts from coast to coast.
Hey, that goes like 50 years. You still playing it. See the power of radio broadcasting, man.
Jus Mic, here on 96.5 The Beat, and of course, Butch Charles.
And we'll be back with more details. And of course, 360 Ebony Degrees. Look for that coming up soon. Oh, and by the way, Butch, don't hurt nobody. George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. Thank you all for joining us. And the conversation will continue. Y'all come on back. And it was great to reunite the original personalities on 106.9 and Power 620. George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation.
Bye-bye, George. Love you. It's showtime.